Throughout the month of February, the light begins to return exponentially to my part of the world, and I cannot overstate how important that is to most of us. Even a foggy day is easier to embrace, because it's light out in the morning now a little after 7, and it's almost 5:30 in the afternoon before the sun sets. When you feel as if you've been in a kind of grey cocoon since late October, this is major. So it's been like this for at least 3 mornings this week. Foggy. And, well, actually to me it's a little nicer than just the usual bleak, empty images of so-called winter. At least this is something other than what it usually is. The only problem is it's grey, it's overcast, and it's been like that for many days as well, which is one of the reasons why I haven't felt completely compelled to go out and record, because it's been like this for a while now. It's like there's a kind of standstill in nature, and in many of us we're really we're sort of spending our last resources kind of these days. Hi. Well, somebody's not unhappy with the plants and the garden and the weather, but I'm certainly looking forward to all of this looking much more green. There is the beginning of a delphinium right there. You know, beginnings are important. There's a sign that it's going to happen, but it looks a little bleak and dead, but it's waiting. Looking at these withered hydrangea as well, I can actually see a little bud right there. That's the promise of spring, surely. And another one there. Ah, I love that. The bud in the midst of all the withered flowers from last year. At the same time, there's a sense of impatience. Enough with a grey-brown winter now. If we can't have snow and a proper winter, just bring on the spring, please. We're all longing for it. I've heard people say things like, "Oh, I saw a cluster of snowdrops yesterday, can you believe it?" But also, can we just skip this part and move straight to spring, please? The sun is actually out. We can see the sky. It's a small miracle. The idea of not quite accepting the weather or the season is so futile that it's almost comical. Not only can we do nothing about it, but we also exist in a state of resistance, sometimes without knowing it. Cows in the distance. And some people walking. Behind that little hill there is actually a very busy road. You wouldn't think it, except I can hear the sounds of the cars, but it looks positively rural right here. My father was like a caged animal at this time of year, which was the main reason why we moved to California when I was a teenager. Most of us don't make such drastic decisions purely based on the weather. But we are really good at complaining about the weather in this country, and I include myself here when it's been overcast for 6 or 7 days in a row. Can you see them? At least this winter, I've been delightfully distracted by my knitting. In fact, I'm much more productive in the winter when it comes to knitting, not only because the yarn is too hot in my lap in the summer, I found out last summer, but also because the light and the warmth of summer invites us to go outdoors more and move more. I wonder if there's some sort of middle ground where we can at once look forward to spring and accept that it's just not here yet.
It works.
If we're constantly seeking something in the future in order to be happy, we likely never will be.
This is so satisfying.
Or at least not for very long. Because then it'll be our ego that's striving for something in the future, believing that the present moment isn't good enough, when that is actually all that we have. And if we strive for whatever the ego wants us to, it won't be satisfied for very long, but soon find a new goal to pursue, in the mistaken belief that that will surely make us happy.
Ta-da! This is what they call a cake of yarn. Doesn't it look delicious?
In connection with the yoga course I'm taking these days, which I talked about in a recent video, I've been reading up on yoga philosophy, something which has broadened my understanding of yoga as something that is much more than just a physical practice. It falls in line with, for instance, Eckhart Tolle, but also with the Tao and a lot of Buddhist beliefs. I want to share a little story from one of the books with you because it highlights something that I think a lot of us could do well to remember. A boat full of tourists arrived in a harbor near a little Mexican village. An American tourist stopped to talk to a local fisherman who was just putting his boat up on the beach with the day's catch. The tourist complimented the fisherman on his fish and asked him how long it had taken him to catch them. "Not very long," said the fisherman. "Then why didn't you stay longer out there to catch more fish?" the tourist asked. The fisherman explained that the day's small catch was plenty for his family to get by. The tourist asked him, "So what do you do with the rest of your time?" The fisherman answered, "I sleep late, play with my children, and have a siesta with my wife in the middle of the day. In the evening I go to the village to see my friends, have a few drinks, play the guitar and sing a few songs. I have a good life." The tourist cut him off. "I have an MBA from Harvard and I can help you. Start fishing more hours every day. Then you can sell the extra fish you catch. With this extra income you can buy a bigger boat. With a bigger boat you can catch even more fish, and with that extra money you can buy another boat. And another down the road until you have a whole fleet. Instead of selling your fish to a middleman, you can now begin trading directly with fish factories, and maybe you can even open your own factory. You could leave this village and move to Mexico City. From there you could manage your company." "How long would that take?" asked the fisherman. 20, maybe 25 years, said the tourist. "And after that, what happens?" "After that," smiled the American, "that's when it gets really interesting. When your business is big, you can start trading shares and earn millions." "Millions, really? And then what?" "Then you can retire and live in a small village by the coast. You can sleep late, play with your children, have a siesta with your wife, and spend the evening with your friends." I just wanted to document that the sun is actually here. And it's such a rare sight that, oh my God. One of the things that struck me recently while I was lamenting the long winter, which isn't even real winter anymore, one of the things that struck me the other day was that despite everything going down the drain in terms of climate change in the world, one of the things that is not going to change, at least as far as we know, is the light. Along with higher temperatures and the migrations that are going to increase across the world, because many places are going to be uninhabited because of the heat. And the heat, we've had heat waves and record temperatures in Europe these past 2 years. While all that is just so horrible, I hope the world leaders and everybody who's in any sort of position of power in the world is going to wake up to that and do something about it. While all that is something we need to be aware of and try to do something about, it struck me that it's not as if the world is getting darker. Imagine if that had been the case as another consequence of climate change. I don't know what we up here in the north, who have dark winters already, what we would have done. I think you can take things seriously, as we need to do with climate change, while at the same time appreciate something like the return of the light and the fact that the sun is still up there. Imagine how amazing that is, even though it's also a source of danger because we have higher temperatures and more heat in certain parts of the world. The reverse situation would have been far worse if the sun had started to disappear. So the light is still here with us, maybe even a metaphorical light. I have a sorrow in my life that is not likely to go away soon. It's got to do with a complicated family situation. It's not something that can ever become unimportant because of this particular family member, and I think that's all I'm going to say. And in order to live with it, I need to focus on other things, not just as a sense of distraction, but also a sense of filling my life with other things. I mean, it's like when my mom died, even though I was an adult, it was a great sorrow to me, and I knew that I would never really get over it in that sense, but it was something I had to live with. And there are many other things throughout my life that have sort of piled on and become part of my story / baggage, depending on how I've dealt with it. And I think many of us have probably gone through things where it's not something we're necessarily ever going to get completely over, but we just have to learn to live with it. And I think it's the same when it comes to waiting for things. Yeah, you can wait for spring, or you can wait for this relationship to heal, or you can wait for the job that you've dreamt of. Whatever event in the future that you think is going to make you happier, or more complete, or more satisfied, or more fulfilled. But you also have to find that happiness, any small degree of happiness in the moment. So you can do both. You can both live in a sort of on the horizontal plane where you think, okay, I'm going to plan for the future, but without being attached to a particular outcome, or that outcome showing up at a particular point in time. Not to rely on that for your fulfillment or your happiness. I think that's crucial to any sense of peace, basically. I want peace of mind these days more than all sorts of other things. I just want to be able to live every day and be relatively fulfilled or satisfied or find moments of joy. But when I do find moments of sorrow, or when I feel unfulfilled, or when I'm in despair, or etc., when I feel lonely, because I think we all go through these things. We just think that we're the only ones to do it. Or we see certain other people who, yeah, okay, they do, but surely not that person or this person. But yeah, we all do. I think when we do, we should accept that that's how we feel at that moment. We shouldn't expect ourselves to be happy all the time. It's not realistic, and that in itself will not set us up for more happiness. So, roll with the punches, I'm tempted to say, and don't wait around in the sense that you wait for things to be a certain way in order to be happy. Wait for them peacefully and patiently, while also getting the most out of your life where you are now. I think that's what I wish for all of us. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching, for being here, and sorry if this is a sort of all over the place kind of video. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching.